All right, so aim 10.3, different characteristics of artwork during the time of the Renaissance. We just talked about the do now a little bit, so here we go. All right, I'll give you a second here. So when we say Renaissance, really the word we're using when we use the word Renaissance is really just a fancy word for rebirth. So in this particular case, in this context, when we say the time period of the Renaissance, we're talking about the rebirth of classical civilizations of Greece and Rome. So all of the height of intellectual achievement that is seen in Greece and Rome is going to be recreated and copied and kind of embraced and embodied in the Renaissance movement. Um, you can especially see a lot of the influence from Greece and Rome in the art, especially as compared to the other kind of things that are happening during this time period. So, this painting, for example, is called the School of Athens. The School of Athens was painted by a guy named Raphael, and this depicts all of the intellectual kind of big shots of Athens. So here you see Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Herodotus, Pythagoras, a lot of other prominent figures in Greek history are depicted here in this painting. So, yeah, it's the subject of that. Greece is the subject of the painting. And then also just look at the technique used in the painting, right? Remember how we were talking about in the Do Now painting, your eyes kind of being drawn to, the middle of the painting. This has a similar effect, right? These kind of diagonal lines along these pillars drag your eyes to the middle. And it's also kind of like you're looking down a tunnel, right? So your eyes are fixed on the kind of center point here. It draws your attention. Okay, I'll give you a second. So the other big word we're going to use here is humanism. We've talked about secularism, examining the world from a non-religious viewpoint. And now the next big word associated with this topic is humanism. Humanism is a focus on the human form and kind of a celebration of individualism. That's really what humanism is all about. It's about the human condition. It is about the characteristics that distinguish one person from another and make us unique. And then it is kind of a portrayal of all of these themes also amounts to humanism also. So the painting here is arguably the most famous painting in the history of the world. It's called the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci. And this is a great example of humanism because it is very, very detailed and there's certain kind of nuanced things about it, like what's with her smile. She has a very, very specific kind of look on her face. So Mona Lisa's smile is the topic of much debate in like the art world for a long time. And who is this person? And, the distinguishing characteristics. There's all kinds of theories about who the Mona Lisa is modeled after. Some say it's a prostitute from Da Vinci's town. Some say it's a distorted self-portrait of Da Vinci. Some say it's just a person that he knows. There's all kinds of weird theories about it. So Mona Lisa is kind of an interesting example. But humanism is this, right? It is the distinguishing characteristics that make her kind of unique in her portrayal. So when you see it, pre-Renaissance art and Renaissance art, the slide here kind of really, two-dimensional for the most part, two people in the foreground, one person in the background, table between them. All three of them look very, very similar, right? All three of these people are, depicted as looking strikingly similar. There's not a lot of layers to this painting, okay? The foreground people, the background person, the table in the middle, and then the backdrop behind them. And that's pretty much it, right? So if you look, let's compare some of those factors to the Renaissance art. Firstly, we could see that there's individual detail that distinguishes these figures from one another. First, they're all different sizes. different color hair, okay, different physical features, chubby cheeks on your baby, your babies, and pointy nose on mom, right? So, and there's also kind of other things here, skin tone, okay? We can see this baby here on the bottom right, skin tone a little darker than baby on the left, right? Um, so you can see kind of what's happening here. And we also mentioned that, there's not a lot of layers to the pre-Renaissance art. But if we look here, we have, this baby in the foreground, and then this baby, and then mom, and they're sitting in some room, and here's the windows to that room, right? And then behind them is rolling hills and a pathway, and then you see a building, and then behind the building is mountains, and behind that mountain's another mountain, and then the horizon, and you get the idea, right? So while the picture on the left is really working on, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, this has depth and perspective, okay? And again, you're seeing some of the same things. Some of the angles that are present in the artwork kind of draw your eyes towards the middle of the painting, right? So these arches direct your sight lines downward, and then the angle of this baby's leg kind of draws you up and in, right? And the reach from this baby here kind of draws your eyes towards the middle. So it is, that's how it's shown. So what you're seeing here is, obviously this is religious in nature, right? We could see the halos here. We see the halos here. It's done a little bit differently, right? But religion is still the topic of a lot of painting, but it doesn't dominate everything. Okay, so these two pictures are important to kind of understand the differences between them, because all of the differences that exist between these paintings are the examples of humanism that we're trying to kind of express. So when we say, what is humanism? We say humanism is the difference between these two paintings. The depth, the detail, the characteristics, right? So all of these things together are what humanism is all about.